recording now.
All right, awesome.
Is that? I guess that red dot. It's more like burgundy, but
Isn't that the hang up button? Oh yeah, no, someone started recording. All right, we're recording.
all right. So, what did you? What would your after a couple weeks of since you've seen it?
Yeah,
Maybe even more. I mean, I saw these movies last week.
yeah,
What's your take on Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza and also Wes
yeah.
Anderson's The French Dispatch?
Frankly, honestly, it was. I don't think it was their best work for either of them, like by far. Uh, I kind of weirdly enjoyed the French Dispatch more, but it was almost like I was going through like a psychological thing where like it just happened to be the movie I watched that like triggered some like psychic revolution. So like it's hard to sort of stand back, but now I can stand back and I can say it's not. I don't think it's I don't think it's one of his best movies. Honestly, it's honestly like it's like middling. It's like on the level of I Love Dogs or whatever. Isle of Dogs, which is to say like you can kind of safely skip it. I'm afraid. It's like this anthology, but it's just kind of not about anything. It's sort of meandering and it never really connects. And a lot of time I just didn't get it. I don't know. And Licorice Pizza, like I said, last time, like the main characters just look kind of they just look kind of ugly and like not in like an endearing way to me. And I know that makes me sound like some kind of I don't know cruel, superficial guy, but I just I don't know. It just sort of distracted me. Also, that movie wasn't really about anything either. Like nothing really happened. It just sort of meanders for 2 hours. I kind of like the atmosphere, but it almost also didn't really feel. It almost felt like there wasn't enough of a '70s patina to everything. But now I can hear what you have to say, overturning my vile, stupid opinions, trashing them into the ocean of garbage where they belong to deserve. Searching
Yeah,
one.
I th- I I think for someone that doesn't appreciate the '70s in a really like specific way, maybe someone who's newer to the
Yeah.
'70s as sort of a world or lifestyle or even like
Yeah.
era. I think Paul Thomas Anderson's movie Licorice Pizza was sort of like a bait and switch. However, if you're someone that really like kind of knows what they like when it comes
Yeah.
to '70s sort of culture,
Yeah.
I think that movie was refreshing because it really brought you into the world that you were like waiting for a long time.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I do kind of I don't know. Yeah, it's I think you're kind of right. Like I sort of always just skipped the '70s because it was such like an insane era. But I don't know. Yeah, I
You
mean,
have
same
it's
same here.
not a movie for someone that's like that thinks '70s is just disco and funk and like
I don't
dancing
think that.
around a lot. It's the '70s was, and if the reality was that '70s wasn't just people dancing, but that's sort of like the stereotype. Is that
It's
it's
just
definitely a
disco,
stereotype.
afros, bell bottoms.
Yeah, people dancing and maybe some cocaine and loud music, but definitely people dancing. But the reality is that like there were people doing a lot of other things that weren't dancing. So,
You can't just dance all the time. Yeah, I gotta say, I found the scene with Bradley Cooper to be pretty funny. Um, I don't know.
yeah, I talked to someone else and they were saying that that was like the scene that was the character that they liked too.
He's
I
just
felt
funny.
like I feel like he was a little bit like I feel like a little bit miscast or something like
Yeah,
and
no, I actually agree. He doesn't, and that's kind of what I'm saying as well. Like these main leads don't, honestly, maybe I'm totally wrong. They don't really seem like '70s people. Like seriously.
the girl did. The girl did.
Okay.
But that's
Okay.
why I even though she's not the prettiest person,
Yeah.
I felt like she fit into it. And the kid
That.
and
Yeah.
the kid, like the 15-year-old or whatever,
Yeah.
he was good considering that he was like the son of the guy of Philip Seymour Hoffman, you know? Like considering that he was like just like he was like sort of born into acting and
Yeah.
like didn't really have like and they actually played that up a bit because he actually is an actor in the movie as one of
Oh
his
yeah. Yeah.
after school jobs.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a little bit like it was a little bit ridiculous that he had like all these entrepreneurial ventures that he could just sort of jump into.
I found, yeah, that was a bit of a stretch, but that didn't trouble me. I was just kind of impressed by his like. I mean, yeah, that is kind of unusual, but I could buy it. That didn't take me out of it.
I
What I
didn't
did
think take
find,
me out of it either, but I felt
yeah,
like it was a waste of an opportunity to make
okay,
him like have a more like interesting life, kind of.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
pretext for like having all these funny situations,
yeah. No, you're
but
you're
but
you're
it, but
right.
it fucked up his character profile.
Yeah, I mean, also I sort of found that I don't think the two leads kind of had. I already said this. I didn't get that there was a chemistry between them, which is sort
I
of.
also feel like this idea that like there would be a 15-year-old prodigy, business prodigy, is sort of like a modern day expectation and stereotype
Yeah.
that back then was not really like I feel like there's the writer projected sort of this fantasy of like the kid of like a 15-year-old being like a tech mogul.
Yeah. Well, you know that book, Junior, by like, I don't know who wrote it. Maybe William Gaddis. It was like in the '80s, and it was kind of like, but yeah, it was definitely not like a '70s phenomenon, as far as I know. So like, I see what you're saying. Like this, like sort of boy genius who looks like it masters the stock market. I don't have enough references, but I think you're kind of right.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, like people, there's always gonna be entrepreneurs who are young.
mhm.
I just felt like that's such like a meme now of like the
Yeah,
kid.
it's sort of, yeah, to make that, if you know, out of all the things to choose to make him that was like a bit, what's the word? When anachronistic.
Yeah, I also felt like I mean I liked the Sean Penn character initially, but I kind of when I
Yeah,
rewatched this one of the scenes, the scene in the bar,
yeah,
I realized that like that the Sean Penn character is kind of like he didn't he's trying to play this sort of like loserish actor that's a has been, but maybe he's a war hero in a past life, you know,
yeah.
like sort of man's man kind of character. And I felt like Sean Penn did not convey that very
Uh
well.
huh.
I felt like the
Yeah.
makeup and like the language is all it was all set, but I think his face
Hmm.
kind of took me out of it because
Yeah, the acting failed kind of.
he doesn't really have that sort of like Cary Grant, Dean Martin look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think you're probably right. Like, I don't know what I don't know, and like all that just seemed like randomness. Like I didn't get like, oh, what a '70s figure this guy is. Although he probably like is on paper, but like you're saying, he didn't live up to that in the acting.
Well,
I mean,
I really like the bar they were in, the restaurant
oh yeah,
bar.
all the wood
And I liked
paneling.
that Tom Waits' character because Tom Waits was this like blabbering drunk
Yeah.
that like comes in with his like funny hat and he's like smoking a cigar or something. I don't know. And there's smoke in
Oh,
the
is that like
entire
the?
restaurant, which you don't see
Yeah.
anymore, obviously.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I felt like that was like authentic, and then they're all eating steaks, like even though that's like not
Yeah.
something. I felt like that was very like typical or
Yeah,
of
definitely.
generation. It was like if there was like this adults only sort of ambiance to it, even though there were like young people in the restaurant. It was like it felt like the restaurant was for adults. The restaurant wasn't like
Yeah, which
general audience's restaurant. Like nowadays, you go to restaurants and it feels like they're almost like made for kids.
yeah,
Like
no, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but they're like they're totally neutral. Like they have no energy. Like they're not for anyone really. Just a corporate space, not corporate, but just like a space. So yeah, it is for kids insofar as it's inoffensive to everybody. But I agree.
it was for general audiences.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's a fair way to put
Parental guidance, maybe. But yeah, I mean, you see, sometimes you go to like you go to actual bars and
it.
pubs, and they'll have that same ambiance, and
Yeah,
it's like
that
childish.
same energy. You're
And
totally
I
right.
liked that this was just sort of like this steezy hole in the wall like steakhouse that like where people
Yeah,
are
and he
drinking
had this like sense of
martinis.
ownership over it. Like yeah, this is the Cox Crow or something. My place.
Yeah, well, he was also a
So
movie star. I mean, it wasn't like he like
yeah,
they kind of tried to make it look like he was this cool guy, But then because he
Yeah.
was a movie star, it's sort of like made it too easy for him to be that. And
Yeah.
there was no at the end of there was no backstory, and I felt like that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
made the movie. The problem with the movie, I think, was a little too incestuous with the whole Hollywood thing because there was a little too
Yeah.
many actors here, actors there. That's
Yeah.
interesting. The Hollywood people who live in LA for forever, like Paul Thomas Anderson, I guess. But for people that
Yeah.
like don't live in Hollywood, they don't want to see like actors playing actors,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like and then like
It's too
it
meta.
just it's not meta. It just means that they don't have a fucking life because they've been fried by Hollywood. Like
Yeah.
that's what it doesn't even seem like meta was cool, but like this is like a cultural bias that like is
You're
reflected
right.
back
It's
in
kind, and
LA.
it's also a little bit. It's a little just like kind of laziness, I suppose. It's like navel gazing.
It's navel gazing for the Hollywood elite that are putting these movies together.
Yeah. Exactly.
And as someone who's from you were both from California, but
Yeah.
I really liked LA and like the Southwest, like Arizona and stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like mind it initially. But now that I live in New York, I was talking to people from New York who've seen this movie, and almost uniformly they didn't like the movie.
That's funny.
And so I think there is a sort of like a bubble to it. And
Yeah.
I really liked the I disagree with you. I really liked the '70s graphic design. It was on all the shops and all the cars, the way that they were like '60s cars that were sort of hung over into the '70s. I love that.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the movie was all the sort of
Attention to detail,
the
kind of.
production, the set decoration, the production design, the attention to detail. I mean, we don't really talk about it when we talk about film, but although we should.
Yeah.
But the set decorators are the ones who I think really make the movie.
Well, definitely. I mean, yeah, I would say with his movies particularly, he has a very specific thing he does where he makes it feel like you're in that time period. Like, in The Master, he used cameras from that era, and the quality of the light is just like, damn, like this is what it looks like. Or The Phantom Thread.
Yeah, well, that's because he has a production designer that he works with. He doesn't
Yeah,
really do
yeah.
that himself. You understand that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, someone else
Yeah,
doing it for him. But whoever's doing it, they're amazingly talented. And I agree. That's almost like half the fun of a movie is like going back into another world. It's kind of nostalgia, which perhaps in the long run is like bad for you, but in the short term is fun. Maybe not. Maybe it can be enjoyed innocently. I don't know. I have a thing about nostalgia. Like I'm too into it. I'm too obsessed.
I actually
Um,
saw the movie with my parents during a Christmas gathering,
I
and
think it's a family friendly movie, isn't it?
and I was arguing with them on the ride back, like what did they like? What did the '70s have that we've lost now? And for
Oh
whatever
yeah.
reason, my parents like didn't want to entertain that, and they're like, "Oh, what like nothing was good about the '70s." And I'm like, "Well, I think that's just like so biased, and objectively, they had things.
How can that be? What, we've
Objectively, I
gotten
think it's
better in every single way.
yeah. Well,
Lucky
people
us.
believe in this
Lucky
myth
us.
of progress and this myth
Yeah,
of
man.
like chasing the future.
That's a
I
great
think
way
I
to
think
put
we're further away from the future than we've ever been.
it.
Just
That's
kidding.
hella funny.
Just kidding. But
That's hella funny. Yeah, but I know what you mean. Like, because I mean, I don't want to be like a stuffy literary analysis of that, but the future is close when you're living in the moment. And I know it sounds corny, but I mean, like, if you the more alive you are, the closer the future is to you because you're moving faster. So like you're going towards the future. Anyway, I don't know. Enough of my mad rambling.
well, yeah, I mean, I think the scene where the water bed where they're at the selling the water beds at the what was it? It was like a youth fair or something.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
roller where they get arrested at the roller rink or whatever it was,
yeah,
the
yeah,
pinball palace.
yeah, yeah,
It's all very kind of kitschy, but it's also like very like sort of hunky dory and wholesome and like
yeah.
cutesy. And that style is like it reminds me obviously like Scooby Doo or something
Oh,
visually,
definitely.
but
That's so 70s.
that visual style is like why don't we embody that anymore? Like was there
Yeah.
really anything wrong with it? I think we should bring it back. I mean, and I know
There's a lot we should
there are
bring back,
hipsters
man.
that are like sort of trying to, but I don't know why we just don't bring it back at like the corporate level.
Yeah, I mean, I think
from a corporate
I,
angle, I think that stuff would be really appealing to people.
well, like for example, I don't know if you've ever seen like a new Taco Bell, like a new McDonald's, like the way they look almost like libraries. Like they're totally like these gray boxes with like certain like muted color blocks on them. Have you seen
Well,
those?
Taco Bell does already have like a subtle 70s distinction to it.
Yeah,
However, and sometimes you see that like with Burger King too.
yeah.
I
Oh
uh,
yeah, well Burger King especially was trying to do a whole retro '70s thing for a while.
it still is really.
Oh really?
If you
But
use
but
their app, it's like all 70s.
but the
And it's my
point that
favorite design scheme. It's my favorite design scheme that maybe in the world, if not
what
like in recent American decades.
what just '70s like that whole you know
Well, yeah. I
aesthetic.
mean, I think you're still thinking it's like disco parlors and like roller
I'm not
rinks.
like I kind of I'm not. It's almost like less than what you think. I'm thinking less than you can imagine. Um, but yeah, I there's something to that.
And to be fair, this movie played it up quite a bit. I don't think this movie was even like had a lot of verisimilitude. This movie was kind of it was a showpiece for the 70s. It wasn't really like a functioning representation.
Yeah,
And by the way, did you know do you know what licorice pizza is?
yeah. I believe it's a record store or something.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought it was just like kind of it was like a yeah, it was a historical record store. There was a chain called
Yeah,
Licorice Pizza. Um and that shows you like how much research or knowledge the writer had, Paul
yeah,
Thomas Anderson. He's an auteur. I mean, he writes and directs his own films,
yeah.
and I think this is his best movie.
Wow,
I think this is his
wow.
best movie.
Really,
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, it's
dude.
the only movie I've actually been charmed by.
Why is that? What charmed you? I mean,
Well, I really liked that '70s show
hmm
when I was a kid and a teenager.
yeah,
And so maybe I'm sort of indoctrinated already.
yeah.
Uh, pre-indoctrinated.
Like that era just sort of comforts you in a way.
But I think there's an independent streak to
Yeah,
this era where it's like it's pacified and not like expressly violent and dangerous. Yet at the
yeah,
same time, it's there's you can still like it's still adventurous and convivial, and that
yeah.
doesn't I don't that doesn't seem like real in the '80s, '90s, early odds, and up to now.
Yeah, I mean the complaint I think starting from the '80s was that you're getting all these like fake like psychopathic like yuppies kind of. Maybe that's a little later, but like a little bit like the '80s was the beginning of that like sort of creepy polished fakeness. I mean, everyone's. I mean, the cliche is that like in the '60s and '70s people let it all hang out, and then in the '80s and '90s they put it away. They stuffed it back in.
Well, that's a good cliche, but I do
Yeah.
think that um, I think it might have been globalism a bit
Yeah.
because it used to be you could just kind of like have a job and that was respected.
Yeah. No.
You'd
Yeah.
eat
I think
pot
you're right
roast. You go
to
home and have pot roast with peas and mashed
steak.
potatoes.
Yeah.
Not steak, but you don't just eat steak every day. But you'd have pot. You'd have mashed. You'd have a casserole. You'd have
Yeah.
just typical like white people foods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turkey dinner. But then
Yeah.
became like, oh no, now we need to like, have fucking margaritas after work, and we need to fucking, we need to work extra hours to compete with the markets in Japan
Hmm.
and or the markets in Germany or Britain or France,
Hmm.
and it's like it became so like you're not just competing with like, your town, your region, your town, your city, your region.
Yeah.
You're competing with like different time zones, and you're also
Hmm.
competing with different labor wages, like wage structures
Yeah.
from like developing economies. So
Yeah.
I think that the oil crisis was sort of like the defining moment for
The
that.
bellwether.
Yeah, it was the bellwether. It was the turning point. Um, it was kind of the zenith, but also the nadir in a sense. And
Yeah.
this is the thing is that you can still have that 70s lifestyle, but it's just there's so many distractions now that it's hard to be a purist.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a point that I've been thinking about a lot lately. In a certain way, there's no one further from the past as it was than someone who is very nostalgic about it. So if you try, if you're trying really hard to emulate a bygone era, you're in almost the deepest sense, you're further away than anyone, because the people in that era didn't think about it. They weren't like, you just can't go home again. Sad to say. I was reading a
Well,
quote.
yeah, I mean that's true in a broad sense, but it's also you can also sort of
Well, if things are good, you can just do them
you
again.
can yeah, I mean
It's not impossible. It doesn't have to be this tragic
you can
drama.
approximate it in a lot of contexts, but
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
going to
Get the
be
same energy.
absolutely
Bring the energy back.
you're
Yeah, and
not
that
going to
connects to what.
absolutely revive it. Yeah.
Well, that brings it back to what you were saying about like what did they have then that we don't have, which is very that is like very. I think that's a very wholesome, healthy way to look at it. You know, I don't know.
And a lot the restaurant in this movie was created. It was a set that they designed.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's funny. So they couldn't find a place like that in the world.
Yeah, so let's trail off and instead of firing directly at this movie, we'll start taking Parthian shots from a distance,
I don't know what that
and
is.
we'll start converging into our discussion of the French Dispatch, which is
Yeah,
also a mildly nostalgic,
yeah,
sorry, nostalgic film, but it's milder than Licorice Pizza for sure.
yeah. And I mean that was more about like I don't know, like 68, 69, right? More or less.
Well, it doesn't go to the same period, but I just think that it has a lot of sort of cultural relics that. But I think that the French Dispatch is a horrible movie. I mean, not
Wow.
even. I'll go one beyond. I'll say it's
Oh my god.
abhorrent.
Oh
It's an
my gosh.
abhorrent film.
Why?
Yeah. Well, because it has no. It throws linear narrative out the window
Uh huh.
just for fuck's sake. I think and then the characters are like decidedly edgy all of a sudden, even though
Yeah.
this is totally out of the wagon for
Yeah.
Wes Anderson. I think
Yeah.
Robert Yeoman, the cinematographer, it's just like his worst work that he's done.
Yeah.
The cinematography wasn't appealing. It was bizarrely theatrical in spaces for no like obvious reason, and I thought that was a trick. It's like if
Uh
you're going to go
huh.
that far with if you're going to make a right like a curve like that, you should at least lead us into it.
Uh
And
huh.
the acting there was irresponsible and bad.
Mm. What do you mean
Uh,
irresponsible?
well, they have these like really intense lines that and that's just I think like for instance there's a scene where like a soldier was like talking about his life and
Yeah.
how horrible it was or something, or how like
Oh yeah. That just.
destitute he was and how onerous and traumatized
Yeah.
he was, and I felt like he didn't he was it was like he was like singing a song. It didn't really come across as like
Hmm.
it was some would say stylized, but I think that's sort of like a way to gloss over the fact that they couldn't really deliver on
Yeah. Yeah. I
performance.
mean, again, I
And
don't
then
think
again, before you remark, you also have Timothy Chalamet sort of like dovetailed into the movie,
I'm.
and he was his he couldn't deliver the lines. I mean, and the thing is this he was like thrown in because he's like apparently like the number one actor now. But I felt that was like very
Yeah.
out of character for Anderson's directorial style, just to
Yeah.
throw in
Just to get a famous
a
guy.
hot young actor kind of, you
Yeah.
know. So
Sort
I thought the whole thing was sort of like a charade. Like
of.
and I don't know why it was packed together. My suspicion is that the people in his circle were sort of telling him that he is such a they're pumping him up and they're
Oh
telling
yeah.
him he needs
Yeah.
to make more ambitious, more avant-garde work because he's the guy that
Yeah.
represents that movement, so to speak,
Yeah. Yeah.
despite it being like totally underground and like not commercially viable. And so he sort of
Yeah.
went like whole hog on with that project that I believe
Yeah.
other people like sort of whispered uh, into his mind for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm like passionately against this film. I like
Wow. Yeah.
certain features. I like some of the production design. I like the title. I like the title. The French Dispatch sounds very alluring. I like the
Yeah.
I like Benicio del Toro is probably my favorite character in this, and I like Adrian Brody in it also.
Oh yeah, he was really funny. He like just it was damn good writing, and he like delivered it well. I like that. It was just funny. I
So
don't know.
Adrian Brody is a better actor uh than his career might suggest.
Yeah, he's just interesting too, man. It's kind of like
You
you
know
were
he's a
saying about.
painter. Did you know he's like a
Oh,
very avid painter? He was a painter before he became an actor.
no, that's wonderful though. That's really good. It's always nice when someone has I don't know something else to offer,
And
particularly an actor.
I love the pianist, but I'm not the only person to say that. But it's just
What do you mean?
you never saw the pianist by Roman Polanski.
I don't know. I
See,
don't think
that's a
so.
good movie. I mean, we're talking if you want to make a real movie
Here, let me
that's
put that
like
on my. I'm gonna put that on
that's
my list.
a real you want to watch a real movie that's heartfelt and meaningful and
Yeah, yeah,
it stays in your head and it's not
yeah,
to be forgotten. Like I mean, these are sort of synonymous. I'm just talking in synonyms now, but
yeah.
the it's a movie that like sort of like alters your direction in life. Maybe it's like
Oh
it's
my
influential,
gosh, man.
and that's the pianist.
Hmm.
It's it's um it's up there with it's probably better than Schindler's List. It's probably the best non-military, non-combatant focused,
Yeah.
civilian sided, you know, World War II film.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe I'd revise that statement
Yeah.
if I saw it.
Well, now I want to see it. That sounds awesome. Uh, yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with you that it's sort of just like, I mean, this movie. It's yeah, the linear narrative not being in there was like a real blow because kind of the charm of Wes Anderson's movies to me is that like despite all the twee like BS, like at the end of the day, it's this like very touching and heartfelt story that like comes back around and there's like reconciliation and it's sincere and like not in a corny way and it's like really it's like very rare. So I really prize that. Or it's like rare to do it well. I guess it's rare to do that in a way that's also like seemingly intelligent or something. But here that can't exist because the stories are pretty much totally disconnected. I mean, as far as I can tell. And the animation thing, I don't know. I didn't get it. I don't know why. I don't really think the animated stuff he does is like good. Like I get he wants to be like more controlling, but we probably already said this, but I think like he's best. He's sort of best when he's like not really doing his style as much. Like that to me is like the least interesting part of anything he does is that like annoying like pencils arranged on a table crap. Like I literally couldn't care less about that. Um,
Yeah, it's like he's trying to make us losers. Like he's like, oh, watch this movie where I am like meticulously arrange things into some geometrical pattern that's like sort of like
yeah.
simplistic and retarded, and you'll appreciate my sense of linearity so much that you'll become like me, a fucking milksop that like can't get over high
Milk
school.
sop. Not even a milk toast. It's one step further. Milk sop. That's great. Yeah, he really is that man.
This is why you don't go to fucking Connecticut, man. This is what Connecticut does to
you'll,
people.
you'll just become that. Well, he was born in Texas, I believe.
He grew up in Connecticut, dude.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
He definitely does not Texan.
I know. Yeah, I know. Furthest thing from it almost. But yeah, like I said, I was sort of weirdly set off by that movie, and I had like kind of an amazing couple months that were just incredible. I was like super alive, but I don't know if it was the movies. I don't know if the movie was to blame or too loud for that. And honestly, it's been a while, so I don't really remember. But yeah, he's. I mean, honestly though, I disagree about Licorice Pizza. I don't think it's. I know we're going back, but I just don't think it's his. Like, I guess I already said this. I don't really think it's his best work by far. But I can admit that that might just be because I don't like the '70s, and maybe I just don't like the '70s because I don't know about the '70s. But I think we were talking about this before with the French Dispatch. Like going back to the Grand Budapest Hotel, like I realize it's all like superficial. It's like this patina of like worldliness and like culturedness. But if you scratch the surface, there's like nothing there, which is almost like not as respectful as one would wish. So in the same way, I imagine I know nothing about the revolutions in France besides the vaguest associations. Um, so this movie like tickles those and makes me feel like, oh, look, I'm so cultured. Like I read the New Yorker, I know this and that. But probably in reality, I imagine in a few years or whatever, as soon as I learn about that time period at all, I'm gonna be like, wow, this is like a travesty. Like literally, this is just like a very clumsy mockery made for a mass audience who wants to feel smart. Um, but all that said, I don't know. Also, Nescafe, that's just like that's not funny. It's like on the level of like New Yorker. It's just like a big New Yorker cartoon, man. It's like very droll. It can be really brilliant, but sometimes it's just stupid and like pretentious.
What's Nescafe?
Nescafe was the Japanese chef, and so the joke is that like, oh, his name is just that, but we as like pig Americans just know that it's like a corny like coffee brand or whatever. Nestle coffee, Nescafe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess I looked up. I guess he is from Texas or something. I couldn't tell.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Apparently his
yeah,
dad was an archaeologist.
Indiana Jones, eh?
Yeah, I think the whole thing is kind of.
But yeah, I can agree with that. I'm actually going to see the Batman tonight. Do you wanna see that and talk about that one
We can do
next
that.
time?
Yeah. Are you seeing in theaters?
Yeah, I am.
You're lucky. Yeah. I'll watch
Why?
it illegally, I guess, and
Yeah,
uh, we can talk about it soon after, I suppose.
cool. Yeah, sorry. I think we have more time. I'm not saying that to like wrap things up, but I
I'm
don't.
kind of stumped. I'm kind of out of.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
I'll tell you one the fun fact about what Anderson is that Owen Wilson was his college roommate.
Wow, it's amazing how chance works like that. I feel like I don't know, man. Actually, I have nothing to say. I have like so much less to say than what I say. It's kind of amazing. So I'm just gonna stop.
I kind of like the University of Texas at Austin. I feel like I'd like to go to master's school there or something.
Why?
Well, it's in Austin, which I hear is a good town, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it seems like it's hit, and the school's like this. It's like a really big school,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like a lot of money. They have a good football team, which I like appreciate.
Really?
I don't know. They have just like a lot of things going for them. It's like the flagship school or whatever. I don't know if
Of
that
what?
means of Texas.
Oh,
I'm not sure if like the students are like bright, but from what I can tell, they're not like the dumbest in the world. Uh,
yeah.
and it seems like it's like the composition is like kids that are like the and people, grad students, professors and stuff that that are like kind of smart, but at the same time they also like to have fun, which
Yeah.
is like you don't see that a ton. Like you don't go to there's not a lot of schools where like they actually like they're smart and they can like actually like let loose.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I just know in people, sometimes people lean on smartness as an excuse to just kind of not have fun. Why?
I think, but I do think. Oh, you know who went there? It's funny. You know who went there?
Who?
Uh, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Eh,
No, isn't that funny?
eh.
So the two people I do respect are Neil deGrasse Tyson
Really?
and Wes Anderson went there.
Wait, why Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Well, I think he's just a really good science communicator. I mean, don't you like Carl Sagan? Yeah.
Um, I like Carl Sagan because I feel like he's actually done science, but this thing about like being a scientist when you're not really a scientist it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I mean, I get that like the world
He's
is
done
still
some research. He has done some research. Neil deGrasse
okay.
Tyson. He's not like never done science,
Yeah,
but he is like a guy who just like sort of talks about it.
yeah.
And that
I
to
mean,
me does seem kind of lazy. I'll admit that. It
yeah.
seems kind of lazy.
Well, what it is, I guess, is I was originally against him, but now I think of it, because I've been a while since I even thought of him. Like, we kind of underrate sometimes how ignorant the world is. Like, how many people just don't know science. Like, coming from our area, maybe, or our background, like, maybe we had too much science and we're kind of sick of it. But other people just literally don't know, you know, pretty sort of basic things about it. So it's good to disseminate that, you know. And in a way, it's like low hanging fruit, which is always good to pluck, improve humanity.
You know who's also from? Yeah, but these movies don't reflect science in anyway.
I'm
If
not talking
anything,
about
they
Wes
reflect.
Anderson. I'm talking about
If anything, they reflect how culture it like transcends science, and it's more, has more worth than science. At least as far as a medium, as part of the vehicle of entertainment. But
excuse me.
the what I, you know, who else is from Texas is Richard Linklater.
I don't even know. I don't know what movies he's made.
He's yeah, well, he's like, if you like Wes Anderson, you'd love Richard Linklater, because
Really?
he's like way more. He's almost like a funny cross between P.T. Anderson and Wes Anderson.
Wow, man, those are my two favorite directors, pretty much.
Yeah, you'd like Richard Linklater, man. I think we saw a
Right.
movie. You remember that animation we saw,
Which one?
which is like they had philosophical blathering kind of. It was like
Uh,
it was like people that they were interviewed, but then it was like rotoscoped or something to be and it looked like an animation.
I don't remember that. You gotta tell me more. I mean,
It
I'm
was called
sure
The
if I.
Waking Life.
Okay, let me look it up now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that with you. It could be someone else.
We've seen some cool movies. We saw the Beach Boys one. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I definitely didn't see this.
Who did the Beach Boys movie? That wasn't. Oh,
I don't know.
you saw Love and Mercy with me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I
I
didn't realize.
remember we were arguing on the way home. Like, it was just funny. Like you were saying, like I don't like how he's like saying like, oh, I love you, like to the crowd at the end of the thing. And I was saying like, I don't know. It was just this funny miscommunication. Like I didn't think you understood something like obvious, and you're like, yeah, no, I get that. I don't know. You had to be there, which you were.
Yeah, no, that movie, it seems like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yeah,
I
man.
wonder who directed that, because it was
Yeah,
really.
it does. Bill Polhad. So maybe it's just some guy. What do you do? Oh, he executive produced Brokeback Mountain.
Well, there you go. All right.
He's
No,
good.
okay. Well, he has the
Yeah,
same birthday as Ridley Scott. He's
man.
one of my
He's only
favorite directors.
This is insane. He's only directed one movie, and that was it. Also, some movie called Old Explorers.
That's kind of crazy that he would produce like so many films and then just direct like one really good movie.
Yeah, it's yeah, and the movie freaking made double its budget. So like, damn, dude. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, man. When the randomest people just turn out to be like good film directors.
Oh, but the movies he's produced are all like great. Like Into the Wild,
Yeah,
The Tree of Life,
I didn't
uh,
like that one, but I get it.
Food Inc., The Runways, uh,
Hmm.
American Utopia. Man, this guy is really, really. Whew, 12 Years a Slave. He's really,
Hmm.
really been around, dude. I think he deserves a lot of respect, but it's weird that he only made that one movie. He only directed that one movie.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
say made. I mean, obviously, he just directed it.
yeah. But that's like you are the motive force there.
Yeah, the director really like has like the most veto power of anyone.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely. He's like the driving force, I think.
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really. I think the director is someone that's they they kind of like they what they do is they kind of like keep like the actual talent from like
Uh,
spilling over into like self-indulgent nonsense.
that's funny. So it's actually more of a negative thing.
I th-
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. I know. I don't like by when I say that. I don't just mean like the actors. I mean like the
Everyone.
costume people, wardrobe, uh, set design, makeup.
Yeah.
Special effects, editing, lighting, everyone, just like every little like artiste on the set or post production. These people like are gonna have vanity. They're gonna put their vanity into stuff, and they need someone to just be like, no, that's not. It's gonna go over budget, or that's gonna like interfere with like the parameters of this. It's gonna throw the vibe off. Like so the director is kind of like the dictator, but like not. He's not a dictator in a way. Like he's more of like an administrator. He's more of the budget guy.
Yeah. I think I've heard that. I've heard that it's mainly, in a weird way, it's mainly people management. It's not like he does everything. He just like stop like everyone does everything, but he makes sure they're not screwing up, kind of. So yeah, that's cool.
I would love to be like a set. I'd love to be like a production designer for like big.
What does that
industry.
entail? Is it like set design or what?
That's like you find out like where they shoot.
Yeah.
You find and then you find out what building, what's made, like what's constructed.
Yeah.
And then you actually decide what is like in the scene when the actors walk in.
That's really cool.
I think you also have like power over the wardrobe too. Like I think at
Yeah,
that
to some
point,
extent, probably.
well, no, I think actually when you're like the official production designer, I think you have authority over the wardrobe department.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's such a cool job to like because you must have a strange. I mean, there's probably boring normal ones, but for any period piece kind of guy, there must be like people who just know like everything about the little knickknacks of an era. That's just an interesting thing to know. I don't know. Very
Well, the only
interesting
thing that
job.
would bug me is that if the acting was really bad, but the production design was really good, and you just
Yeah.
couldn't like interfere with that
But you mean
with
if you were doing the work? Yeah, if you were doing the work and like you were like saddled to a crappy project, and it would make you look bad. Yeah.
well, it wouldn't make you look bad, but you would just like you would just hate being involved with like a terrible script or terrible acting talent.
Yeah, you'd be on a sinking ship. Another
Yeah,
bromide,
exactly.
another stale, lifeless
Yeah,
bromide.
and you'd have to go down with it, just like the captain or the violin player.
Is that a
Well, you have to
captain
see
villain?
Titanic. Clearly, you have not seen Titanic.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of movies I haven't seen, a lot of books I haven't read.
All right. Well, I think we should conclude this podcast because we're totally rambling now.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, if you edit this, you should probably cut out a lot of that.
It's
That was just
44 minutes. I think that's good.
yeah. If like I said, I think you could safely cut out some of the end. I don't know.
What's the share tray?
I don't know, man. That sounds convivial. That sounds like a '70s thing.
It does.
You got
Okay,
the
I'm gonna
wieners on
stop
the share tray.
recording right now.
All right. It says it's still recording.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, wait. Let's go to 45 minutes.
Yeah, nice round number. Got
So,
anything you
what
want to
if
say
you
in the last?
on a scale as a letter grade? What would you give the
Yeah.
letter for each of these movies?
Licorice Pizza. It's like a B minus. It was enjoyable. French Dispatch C plus. I don't hate it as much as you did.
Oh, so you're actually your opinion is sort of reversed and inverted.
Yeah. Well, you convinced me.
Okay. Well,
Also, there's
I
this
did my
sad.
job.
Yeah. Also, there's this weird thing where like like looking back over something, you start to like it less or something as you realize, you talk it out, you change your mind. Maybe that's BS. I
Yeah.
have poor
Okay.
memory, dude. Anyway, you
That's
go.
happening to me too. I thought Licorice Pizza was like really, really, really good, but
Yeah.
now I'd probably only give it like a B.
Wow.
Maybe a B plus. Maybe I'll give it a
That's
B plus.
insane. That's insane. You like it exactly as much as I do.
Well, I like a lot. I'll give it a B plus,
That's what I get, man.
and then I'll give
You're
a
just a hard
straight I'll
grader.
give a
That's what.
straight D
Okay.
to the French Dispatch, which I don't even want to mention anymore.
Dude, D minus then.
Yeah, and actually I'll give if you really if someone was like trashing Licorice Pizza, I would change that B plus to like an A minus. Like so it's
Yeah, I know
it's
what you
like a
mean.
circumstantial one. Great. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but between equals here, I give it a fucking B plus.
Yeah, nice. You should honestly, as a slideshow, this would be very entertaining with like scenes with like pictures from the movies in question. That's
Yeah, I
good.
mean it's a lot of work to do for something that's like 46 minutes, 47 minutes long.
Yeah, you're right.
What I'll try to do is uh I'll try to make it more like what's it like when you're in the previews and the previews haven't even started and you're just kind of in like this like brightly lit theater
Yeah, I know what you
and they
mean.
have
And like it
they
really
actually
doesn't
literally have
change that much.
slideshows. It's literally a slideshow.
Yeah.
I'll try to do that where they just have like pointless slides that are like sort of like vaguely amusing,
Vaguely relevant. Yeah.
vaguely relevant, like very commercial and somewhat like entertaining and like an offbeat, indirect, and like sort of ironic. But...
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll cancel it.
Alrighty.